Hello Instagram. So as you may have heard, I finally got around to making it official, and now I'm finally getting around to my blog post that I'm supposed to do on everything that I did leading up to the big day to get wedding ready. So I'm gonna take it way back to the beginning, quite a long time ago. I've been with my fiance forever. It's just something that we never got around to. We wanted to do the kid thing first, and now that that is all said and done, we finally got around to it. So my laser and prep journey did start a while ago with tattoo removal. So because I knew I was going to be getting married and most likely a backless dress, a couple years ago I did tattoo removal. I had it done by Bob, who enjoyed it far too much, because let me tell you, tattoo removal hurts a lot more than actually getting the tattoo, but it is so worth it. So I had the tattoo on my wrist removed, and I had quite a doozy on the back of my neck that I don't like to admit to that I had taken off. I was biting the pillow the whole time for the first few sessions, because the first few sessions are the worst, and I've never seen Bob more joyful. Like, he was getting such a kick out of putting me in pain. It was a little sick and twisted, but he just kept saying, think about how much better you'll look in a wedding dress without that trashy tattoo, and he was right, and I'm glad I did it. So step one was tattoo removal. So the fall before my wedding is when I sort of got into my laser routine. I don't normally do laser during the summer months just because of sun exposure and being more photosensitive. So around the fall, when the kids went back to school, I started doing some fractional resurfacing and some IPL photofacial, and I usually alternate the two. I like both of those treatments. That way I'm targeting texture as well as pigment, because mama used to tan in high school, and I will forever be finding that deep set pigment in my pale skin. So everyone can use a texture improvement and pigment, bash it out with IPL photofacial to get my skin ready. As we started getting closer to the date and closer to sort of those spring, summer months, that's when I sort of stopped the laser and transitioned into alternating between microneedling and chemical peels. So again, great for texture, great for complexion, and just overall skin health. Now, I'm definitely not new to the filler game. I've been getting it for a long time, so I know what I like and what I don't like. If you are thinking of getting filler for the first time before your wedding, you might want to sort of do it around this time period just to feel it out and see what works for you. The good thing about filler, unlike Botox, is if you don't like it, you can dissolve it. That being said, you don't want to spend a bunch of money, get something done a few weeks before your wedding and say, nope, change your mind and dissolve it and be starting from square one. At least if you're getting it done beforehand, you can sort of tweak it and see, like, okay, you know what, I want a little bit more here, maybe try some here. So when you're a few months out, that's when I would say just play around with filler if you're new to it and you're planning to have it before your wedding. That being said, if you're an old pro to filler like me, you do you got this, you know what you're doing. Same thing with Botox. Now, unlike filler, which is immediate, although you should account for some time if you have any bruising from the filler, you can also take arnica beforehand to lessen your chances of getting bruising, but you don't want to do it too close to your wedding date. So even if you know exactly what you're having, I would give it at least 2 or 3 weeks for filler before your wedding day for any top-ups, just in case you bruise. With Botox does take 2 weeks to kick in, so you definitely want to do it a little bit ahead of time. It usually lasts around 3 months, so you don't want to do it too far in advance, but I would say at least a few weeks out. That way, if one eyebrow reacts a little bit more, you have some time to just fine-tune everything. For me, right before the wedding, when I had my last appointment for Botox, I did go a lot lighter than I normally went, just because I wanted to make sure I had all that facial movement for smiling and expressions, just so I didn't look too stiff. I had one eyebrow that had slightly more movement than the other one, but I was not about to risk it, even though it would have only needed 1 unit to even it out. Right before the wedding was not the time. So you might notice in a couple of my pictures, one eyebrow moves a little bit more than the other one, but that was far better than taking the risk of doing it too close to the wedding and have it heavy. So for me personally, ideally for both filler for sort of facial contouring and the Botox, I did it 1 month prior to the wedding day, just so I had wiggle room and I could be safe. Now, going back to the chemical peels, I stopped chemical peels about 2 months before the wedding. You could go up to like 6 weeks before the wedding if you wanted to, but it was getting into the summer months, so I put a halt to the chemical peels, and then I just sort of transitioned to regular skin maintenance microdermabrasion, which is just going to really deep exfoliate the skin, let you absorb more nutrients, keep the skin fresh. But when I was doing chemical peels, I was also doing some chemical peels on my back. Because my dress was backless, you gotta think about your back, you gotta think about your décolleté just as much as your face, given the style of your dress. So if you have any congestion on your back, any breakouts, any pigmentation from the sun or from previous breakouts, chemical peels are a great option for the back as well. And because the wedding was an out-of-town wedding, literally the day before I flew out, I had a nice, good microdermabrasion at the clinic. So about 2 days before the wedding, I did dermaplaning myself. I feel like I'm always talking about the exact same things on here, but I love dermaplaning. I don't feel like you need to go and make an appointment and spend hundreds of dollars to have it done. I do it myself regularly, once every week or two. You can get the little sticks online or from Sephora. The only thing I would say if you are going to do dermaplaning yourself is definitely don't leave it to the week before your wedding to do. Start ahead of the game just so that you can get used to it and how it feels on your skin and how to move the little tool, because if you do get any little nicks or scratches or irritation, or you see how your skin reacts to product after dermaplaning, you want that to be ahead of time so that you are a pro when it comes to 2 days before your wedding. The reason why I did dermaplaning 2 days before the wedding is it takes off not only the top layer of dead skin, it's an amazing exfoliant, but it also takes off that layer of blonde peach fuzz that everyone has on their skin. So not only do your products absorb that much better, but you get that glassy, smooth, glossy look to your skin because you don't have the dead, dull skin, but you also don't have the peach fuzz. So your makeup is sitting on baby bum smooth skin rather than fuzzy, hairy skin. Do not do it for the first time right before your wedding though. Practice, practice, practice. One of the most important tips that I can't stress enough before a wedding or any big event for that matter is, as tempting as it may be, do not switch things up with your skincare. Stick to what you know. So I stopped using retinol a few weeks before the wedding so that I had a solid AM PM routine that would not be changing for a good 4 to 6 weeks before the wedding. I wanted my skin completely used to it. I didn't want any curveballs. The last thing you want is to wake up with any irritation or a breakout or a blemish. Bob almost cried the morning of my wedding because he woke up with a blemish, and let's face it, it was his day too, so much so that he literally had "It's my day too" written on a t-shirt, so he was really upset by that. Other than a little morning of blemish-induced freakout, Bob was on his best behavior. He wore a lot of white to all the pre-wedding events leading up to it, but he did get it out of his system so that he did not wear white to the wedding, and Jessica was great at keeping him in check. One thing I did have in my sort of emergency pack for the wedding was the Zeo Sulfur Mask. So it's that blue mask that you've seen on our Instagram and on our website. Some people use it as an all-over face mask, but I've said this again 100 times, I use it as a spot treatment if I do have a blemish or I feel one coming on. So just in case the day or two before I felt like something was gonna come up, I did have the blue Zeo Sulfur Mask on hand so that I could put it on before I go to bed. You'd wake up the next morning, it's practically non-existent, just to avoid any last minute breakouts or blemishes. Now we've gone from tattoo removal a couple years before. You wanna give that at least a good year because some of those tattoos are tricky, and if you could give it 2 even, as much time as you have, start when you can, because there's a lot of healing time in between each treatment. If you do the treatments too close together, they're not going to be as effective and you're kind of just wasting your money. From there, we came into the fall, the wedding before, with laser. I chose fractional and IPL. Then I transitioned into my microneedling and my chemical peels as we got really close to the date a few weeks out. It was just microdermabrasion for skin health. The day before I flew out, microdermabrasion, stuck to my skincare, didn't switch anything up, did a self-performed dermaplaning 2 days before, had my Zeo sulfur mask in my emergency bag in case there was any blemishes, and then now we are the day of. So the morning of, I used obviously my exfoliating polish, and then I used one of the Zeo Skin Health sheet masks. So they give you a really nice bright glow. So I did that right before the makeup artist came in to do my makeup. It's great before events, just to top it up. The only problem with that is, sorry guys, they don't actually sell the Zeo sheet masks. They're just used for in-clinic treatments. But if you are actually a bride, a verified bride, I'm sure you can talk Bob into sneaking you one for the day of, or use them in your treatments leading up to the big day. The Zeo red carpet facial treatment is great before an event. So that's my timeline. That's 2 years out to 15 minutes before makeup of what I did to get my skin wedding ready. And of course, when it comes to weddings, the one thing other than clear skin, getting your skin in order beforehand, the one thing that everyone wants is that luminous bridal glow. So what that comes down to is exfoliation, exfoliation, exfoliation. If you can get up to exfoliating every day, awesome. Again, that's not something you're gonna switch up right before your wedding day. So work your way up to exfoliating every day, or if you're just doing it a couple times a week, that's great too. My absolute favorite products for this is the Zeo exfoliating polish, but also the Zeo exfoliating accelerator. So it's an acid-based light cream that you're gonna put on, and it's just gonna sort of burn through, for lack of a better word, that top layer of dull dead skin. It's almost like a little mini chemical peel every day. Those are my two favorite products for great exfoliation and just keeping the skin luminous, reflective, and glowing. So that's everything leading up to my wedding day. Then we would move on to the honeymoon. So if you're lucky enough to get a honeymoon, I'm jealous because I ended up on a trip with 4 kids and my in-laws, not my husband because he had to stay behind and work. He did meet up with us later, but I'm not gonna let him live that one down. So for the honeymoon, obviously laser hair removal is where it's at. You don't want to be shaving your legs, your Brazilian area, your underarms, anything for that matter when you're supposed to be relaxing in marital bliss. So obviously laser hair removal is the way to go. Again, that's not something you can leave to the last minute. It's something that you are going to want to give yourself quite a lot of time to get full results, because you have to space the treatments out about 6 to 8 weeks apart. Certain areas, certain thicknesses or colors of hair are going to take more or less treatments. So the longer you have in advance, start then. Don't leave it to the last minute. That being said, whether you're getting married or not, if you haven't had hair removal yet, like dark ages, get on it. That's insane that you're still shaving. But I would definitely jump on the hair removal sooner than later when it comes to the honeymoon or any beach for that matter. Also, for the wedding as well as the honeymoon, I wasn't going to risk a spray tan with it being an out-of-town wedding. So I did have the option to try out someone who was highly recommended for a spray tan before the wedding, but I didn't want anything dark. I didn't want to risk it. So I would say if you are going to use a self tanner or a spray tan, do it well in advance to try it out and see how it reacts to your skin and what level you want. I really like the James Reed Express Mousse because it has the different levels, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour for light, medium, or dark, and I want more of a light glow for a wedding. I didn't want to look Jersey Shore. Even if you're a self-tan pro, make sure to give yourself a few days before the wedding. That way, if it's a little darker than normal or there's any areas that are holding more color than others, you have a chance to sort of buff it off or tone it down. So that was my complete in-depth version of my pre-wedding schedule for all my wedding prep. The key is to definitely plan things in advance. I left absolutely everything in my wedding to the absolute last minute except for my pre-wedding prep. So don't leave things to the last minute, especially if you're planning to come to the Vanity Lab. We do have a wait list for most of our procedures, so plan in advance, schedule it out. If you don't know exactly what you should be doing for your particular skin type, have a consultation, let your technician know your wedding date. That way you can address all the issues with your skin, anything that you want to treat or work on with your skin, and block it out on a timeline so you know exactly what you should be doing at what time of year leading up to your wedding, and you can get everything pre-scheduled in advance. So a huge congratulations if you yourself are getting married, and I hope my babbling of a Coles Notes cheat sheet helps somewhat with your wedding prep planning. Dun, 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 dun. Are we done?
Yeah.
This is so silly.